And yeah, so I'm going to just give a little bit of a program overview this morning, given that there's so many people here today that haven't joined one of our webinars before or might be applying to Ocean for the first time. I think it's important we just do a bit of a recap of what Ocean is and what kind of projects you're able to apply to Ocean with. So Ocean is a competitive grants program. We're a global competitive grants initiative, and we aim to support the people most impacted by declining ocean health and climate change through funding local solutions to local problems. The program itself for Ocean will be funding projects running up to 31st of March 2029. And we have a total investment of up to 60 million to be spent across this funding period. The grant administrators are a company called NIRAS, and we're obviously referred to here as the Ocean Grant Administrators throughout the different guidance and materials. And the program itself is funded by the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, or DEFRA for short, which is a UK government office, and it's funded through the UK's Blue Planet Fund. So the intended impact of Ocean, as I mentioned just before, is to help place the ocean on a path to recovery, enabling local communities and nature to thrive. We see doing this through supporting a reduction in levels of multidimensional poverty, with fewer people experiencing the impacts of poverty, supporting better protected and more sustainably used and managed marine ecosystems and ecosystem services, and increasing gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, particularly regarding access to resources and alternative or sustainable livelihoods in coastal ecosystems. So we aim to do this through two different funding pathways. We can have applications to either one. This session this morning, as Yolanda shared, is going to be focusing on the partnership grant, so we will be going into more detail on that. But just wanted to give an overview of the two different funding pathways that we do have available. So applicants can apply to both the community grants or the partnership grants. For community grants, this is focused more at a smaller scale, so grant sizes are up to £250,000. And we expect these projects to be led by small to medium-sized organisations that are legally registered in eligible coastal countries. The projects for community grants should focus on contributing to developing new ideas, providing local solutions to local problems, and empowering communities, and should also factor in, where possible, strengthening local capability and capacity of local communities and/or organisations. For partnership grants, where we'll be focusing today, these are focused at a kind of a larger scale. So the grant size for partnership grants is a minimum of £500,000 up to a maximum of £3 million. These should be led by, or we expect these to be led by, medium to large size organisations. These organisations can be local or international, and they should have the capacity to deliver these solutions at scale. For these projects, they should focus on partnering with and working alongside local communities to deliver local solutions to local problems, and should implement scalable approaches via well-established networks to deliver maximum impact. As a competitive grants program, Ocean follows a number of grant fund principles, which are appearing on the screen now. These focus on kind of ensuring that it's a competitive process, so we're open to all who meet the eligibility criteria and are willing to compete, and only the highest scoring projects will be funded. It is a very competitive process, so please be aware when coming into this that you may not be successful and that there is only a limited amount of funding and grants that can be awarded. But we do commit to being a fair, transparent process and giving everyone an equal opportunity in this process. We encourage co-financing or kind of utilising match funding to help improve the scale and reach of your project, and promoting ownership and commitment to projects and ensuring public funds can go further. We encourage localisation and the development of ideas that provide local solutions to local problems, with an aim of stimulating ownership and greater innovation. We encourage applicants to submit potentially transformative or transformational plans that can contribute to achieving local solutions to local problems. And innovation is defined in our guidance, so it's worth having a look at how we see, or what we see innovation as, in further detail by reading our full guidance document. We encourage bringing together together partners and cooperation for shared mutual benefits. And that's particularly important for our partnership grants funding pathway, where partnerships is such a focus and emphasis of this applications. And then inclusion and equality, we encourage applicants to consider how their efforts can advance gender equality, disability inclusion, and accessibility and social inclusion. Just looking at the projects funded by Ocean, so to help meet our intended impact, we will be funding projects that aim to reduce multidimensional poverty in ways which contribute to the protection, restoration, and sustainable management of the marine environment. So while projects may have a primary focus, they must demonstrate a clear and integrated approach that addresses the critical links between poverty reduction and the marine environment, and it's crucial for projects to recognise and address the interconnected challenges. So we are looking for projects that are working across these two different areas and that are bringing together the challenges to create kind of a mutual benefit across two areas. Projects applying for funding must also promote gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, and demonstrate how they've taken GEDC into consideration during their project design. They should demonstrate how they contribute to climate adaptation and/or climate mitigation. And there's a question in the application form for you to just detail any kind of expected benefit or impact in this space. Should be working at the local level and with organisations based in the country of implementation. And as the partnership grants projects, we expect that to be through well-established networks or creating meaningful partnerships with in-country organisations. And all projects must be based in an eligible country and meet all mandatory eligibility requirements. So we will talk about those a little bit further in a few seconds. Just talking about multidimensional poverty a little bit. So when we talk about multidimensional poverty, we basically recognize that this goes beyond a lack of financial resources and encompasses barriers to meeting basic needs, well-being, and living with dignity. So it can be a whole range of different issues that you could be tackling to help reduce multidimensional poverty. It could be access to services, access to education or water. It could be health, livelihoods, income generation, food security. We basically recognize that multidimensional poverty has multiple different dimensions associated with it, and that it isn't just about income that affects or impacts poverty, and that you could be working to support a reduction in poverty through not directly targeting income generation. Just with regards to that multidimensional poverty, so coastal communities do face unique challenges, and that makes this poverty alleviation crucial. So there tends to be a very high reliance on natural resources to sustain livelihoods. Coastal communities tend to be highly climate vulnerable, and that includes exposure to rising sea levels, extreme weather, or degraded ecosystems. And social exclusion or marginalization due to geographic isolation, limited infrastructure, or lack of political representation. So it is particularly important to be focusing on this multidimensional poverty aspect when looking at applications working with coastal communities. And Ocean, so therefore, as a result of the Ocean aims to fund projects that have that integrated approach, combining both the marine environmental conservation with poverty reduction, and measures including livelihood development, education, or health initiatives, as I just mentioned. When thinking about poverty reduction, it's really important to also factor in gender equality, disability, and social inclusion, or GEDC for short, into your design. So poverty reduction approaches are most effective when there is a strong understanding of GEDC and consideration of gender and social dynamics. And women, youth, and people with disabilities, as well as other marginalized community members, often lack access to ownership of land, resources, and financing infrastructure services. So where, as mentioned before, this Ocean would anticipate to be working with a lot of coastal communities. This is particularly important because obviously they tend to rely on natural resources for livelihoods and well-being and are highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. So moving forwards, Ocean has committed to prioritizing and embedding GEDC across all elements of its grants program and has set a new ambition of being GEDC empowering program to ensure that it is doing what it can to help support a focus and a promotion of gender equality, disability, and social inclusion. As a result of this, we do have a new JEDC ambition statement and guidance available on our website, and we have kind of heightened that prioritization in this next funding round, which I think we will talk about a little bit further in this presentation. Just very quickly, whilst thinking about the types of projects that Ocean tends to fund, there's a few examples on the screen. I won't go through all of these today, but the types of project activities that we would anticipate to be kind of funding or awarding grants to would be community training workshops in sustainable marine management practices or poverty reduction or income generation activities, projects that generate evidence and share data or test new approaches, projects that develop community-led networks or are looking at developing improved practices or refining and kind of implementing new innovative approaches. Projects that are looking at supporting women, youth, and people with disabilities, particularly around sustainable livelihoods or other income generating activities. Projects that establish protected areas or establish biodiversity monitoring programs or kind of better protection or regulation programs. Improved access to infrastructure and services, and then education, advocacy, and awareness raising. So in round one, we successfully awarded 21 different projects around the world, and on the screen at the moment is a map of those projects that have been awarded. These are being uploaded onto our website, but we do have to just wait for all the contract and grant agreements and award paperwork to be signed before each project can be uploaded. So the full 21 projects might not be up on the website at this given time, but there are some up there already, and they will be added in the coming weeks so that we can start to showcase all of our round one grantees on the website. But just to give you a quick introduction to some of them, we have got a Revitalizing Livelihoods Management Habitat Restoration Ecotourism project operating in Tanzania. We've got a project focusing on the integration of fisherfolk for sustainable habitat and natural ecosystem transformation. We've got project of resilience and empowerment of coastal communities based in Senegal, and a combating IUUF or illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing in the Philippines. So this is just an example of some of the projects that we've got, and we do suggest that you look at the website to have a look at those, and they will all be up there in the coming kind of weeks and months as grant award paperwork is finalized and agreed.